And welcome back, everybody, to the Big BR Show. That's 428 Chase on YouTube. And like I said, welcome back if you've been here before. If you're new, welcome in. Please like and subscribe if you like the content. Um, well, my name is Bill, and I'm in Mesa, Arizona. And I've been, I do mostly music. I have a little bit different approach than a lot of other channels that I've noticed. I've been using themes. My previous, my first theme I started out with was called Creatures, and basically that was any song that included any type of creature within related or within the song and the lyrics, title of the song, title of the album, name of the band, what have you. And then, well, Halloween came up, so I did some Halloween themed songs. And then now, most recently, the theme I've been working on is called Location. And what that is any song that includes some type of location within the lyrics, the title of the song, the title of the album, or the name of the band. And I've been working on that for a while, and I'll be working on it for a while longer because there's a lot of songs out there with locations related or included in the song. And then I bust out with a little bit of comedy. I've done a couple George Carlin. I did Richard Jenny, and most recently a lot of Brian Regan and some wacky animations that he do. But back to George Carlin. I've been following George Carlin since 1974. I was like 14 years old, and that was probably the first time I heard George Carlin. And because a very popular routine that he did was 7 words that you can't say on television. And that blew up. I mean, that's still really highly regarded today. It was a historical routine as well, uh, uh, regarding language and how it's used on television, and words you can say and what you can't say. A big court case over it with the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, or what have you. Big court case, and plus he went to jail for it. so, but at any rate, like I said, I've been a George Carlin fan since 1974, and and I have most likely heard just about, I would say, 99% of everything he has done, including interviews, Johnny Carson appearances, and whatnot. And of course, back in the 70s, you didn't have YouTube. You didn't get to see a lot of George Carlin videos on YouTube. Uh, you was able to see him on HBO, though. He had 14 HBO specials, but overall he had like 20 albums that he had released, and like I said, 14 of them were actually uh in HBO specials. And um and then he also uh been in a number of movies, maybe 10, 12 movies where he made appearances at. And he had his own uh, TV show, uh, a series that was only 2 series long. Uh, I mean, 2 seasons basically. But it's still he still was out there, you know. But the point I was what I wanted to do tonight was I just wanted to go through his catalog and expose y'all to a lot of George Carlin that you probably never knew about or heard of. And it's not on. I don't have it on paper um, or amongst my list of George Carlin routines. Um, at least not under the original title, and I'll explain that later. But George Carlin got his, I guess, he had been in, I guess he has always had, uh, his inspiration to be a comedian or actor, and and throughout his life, he's uh, in the Air Force, I believe, at one point, and um, but as far as and I believe he was a disc jockey on the radio. He was a disc jockey at some point. But his comedy career actually got started in 1963. He had a partner named Jack Burns, and they released an album together that was titled Jack Burns. I'm sorry, Burns and Carlin at the Playboy Club Tonight. Again, that was in 1963, and they, like I said, they released the one album together before they went their separate ways. And now we're going to get into George Carlin's catalog, and I'll go ahead and bring this up, and we're going to go through it. One moment. Excuse me. So, in 1967, George Carlin cut his first solo album, and this was titled Takeoffs and Put Ons. And like I said, he was a disc jockey before his comedy career, and that's probably why the title, this first bit that he did on this one was Wonderful Wino. Um, and Top 40 disc jockey. That was his first that was his first solo album. Um, Again, released in 1967. This here one, the Indian Sergeant. Now that one um, got some recognition. He was on a couple of TV shows where he performed that one. Um, and then, oops, oh, How to Speak English. That just disregard that. That doesn't go with this album. So it's Wonderful Wino, commercials, daytime television, the newscast, and the Indian Sergeant. Okay, so then he followed that up in 1972 with FM and AM. Shoot, as George Carlin says, shoot is shit with two O's. uh, Pretty good stuff there. The hair piece. This is a poem about his hair. I would recite it, but I don't remember that. I don't. I used to know it, but I don't anymore. And then he has his version of the Let's Make a Deal. Pretty funny stuff. The divorce game. He says they have divorce court. They ought to have divorce game. All right. So that was his first two solo albums. Um, so then, and again later on in 1972 is when he released Class Clown, and This isn't all the tracks on that album. Um, this also included, him when he was Irish, Catholic, Catholic school. He was a class clown, and I got to add those back to the list so I can remember them. But there you go. 7 words you can never say on television, and I won't tell you what those are. You have to listen to it. All right, and then in 1973, as you can see, he followed up with Occupation Fool. Hold on. So yeah, so Occupation Fool that was released in 1973. Uh, and Filthy Words. This was kind of like a follow up to 7 words you can never say on television. It was kind of like, well, let's follow that up with some more filthy words. And if I remember right, it uh, laid heavily on um, S and F words, if you want if you know what I mean. All right, and then in 1974, you had the Toledo window box. Um, Again, pretty funny stuff there. Not the original rubber cement. I Yeah, and that was another thing about me and George Carlin. Like I says, after by the time I got to this album, I was sold. I mean, I was already a major fan, but this one is when I started to do my mimicking of George Carlin, and I remember when I used to do this one. Snot is the original rubber cement. Thumb and forefinger, try to throw one away. They won't go. Uh, you got you got to put it in your other hand and dirty up your fingers, and then they snot, and then when snot lands, it doesn't make a sound. But anyways, there's more to that routine. But I'm rusty. I can't do it anymore. But I used to have that one down pat. I used to, tell all my friends, parties, at parties, and then later on in some of my jobs, I used to do again. There was a lot of George Carlin routines that I used to uh, memorize and mimic, and um, then this second one that I started doing a lot. Hold on, my page just went black for some reason on my resource. Down on. Okay, then in 1975, it was an evening with Wally Londo featuring Bill Slazzo. This one got a lot of popularity from baseball and football. That got a lot of recognition, I think. And then, but these were some high on the plane. Um, again, that was one of those routines that I used to have down pat, and I used to imitate George Carlin with that one. And in 1977, it was On the Road. Kids Are Too Small, Death and Dying, uh, Supermarkets, How's Your Dog? Okay, and now this is the one that I wanted to refer back to. remember back at the beginning, I told you the first album that he ever did was with a partner. It was Burns and Carlin at the Playboy Club Tonight. Well, that was re-released like 2 or 3 times with different titles, and I believe this was the last time it was re-released with titled Killer Carlin, and that was done in 1981. But what it really is just a re-release from or identical to the one that he released in 1963 with his partner Jack Burns. So and then in later on in 1981 we had A Place for My Stuff. Of course, that one got a lot of recognition and popular. A Place for My Stuff, but like I said, there's a lot of these people that do the reactions. That's probably the only one that I see anybody really do on YouTube or react to on YouTube is A Place for My Stuff. But I have seen a couple do the Fussy Eater routine. And by the way, some of these, like I said, that were HBO specials. Um, a lot of times, in my opinion, the studio album was better than the live version, even though it was audio only. Like Fussy Eater, for instance. Like I said, the live version of that is pretty good, but in my opinion, the audio only studio version was actually better in my mind. So again, then following that up was Carlin on Campus in 1984. This one here, an incomplete list of impolite words. That is another follow up to the 7 dirty words you can never say on television. This list is a hell of a lot longer, believe me. And uh, a whole bunch of them that you probably heard, and probably a whole bunch you never heard, but they're all pretty filthy or dirty, as another expression. And then, and in 1986, you had Playing with Your Head. Um, this one got some reaction with on a few different channels. I've seen people do the Hello Goodbye or Love and Regards. Those were, and sports. These were a couple off of this album that seemed to get a little bit of um, internet action. So again, so that's from 1967. Okay, 72, 73, 74, 75, 77, 1981, and then 1984, and then Playing with Your Head in 1986. Okay, now so between 1986 and then his next release, What Am I Doing in New Jersey in 1988. So there was a 2 year gap right there where he really didn't, uh, you know, that's when he, during that gap is when he, I think he took another approach to how he wanted to present his comedy and the style that it took. It took a turn. All the ones previous to that were uh, everyday funny stuff, stuff that you all experience at one point or another in some fashion or form. Like I said, he covered everything from A to Z. Uh, uh, rather, no matter how small or big or how weird, he covered it. Commercials, TV, television, drugs, divorce, let's make a deal. Um, Again, all of these nursery rhymes, uh, God, you know, sports, driving. Here, like cars and driving. That's another one. I mean, love and regards, groups and charities, losing things. Uh, I mean, like I said, he covered everything. All, even though sometimes, of course, he still used some foul language, but it was still, it was still more comedy driven, more observational driven, and then, like I said, in 1988 is when he kind of uh, changed his whole approach, his style. He became, maybe it was with age, he got cranky. He got uh, um, a little more cynical and critical of people and everyday life, basically. He always had something to complain about, and and uh, and you'll see that it's actually part of the title of one of his later albums. But that's where it started from. So, like I said, it's from between '86 and 88. Something he went through something in his life that he decided I got to do something a little different, and then he changed his whole approach. And then follow that up in 1990 with a parental advisory. Now, again, in my mind, like I said, I love all his stuff, really, and I can listen to anything by him and get a kick out of it. It's just that I know it already. I know what he's gonna say next, more or less, on just about every one of these. I can tell I can pretty much tell you what's coming up, but this one here, the euphemisms. Um, that one, uh, it got a lot of play on YouTube, a lot of reaction channels. But you might look it up under soft language, but it's actually original title is euphemisms. And then in 1992, he had Jamming in New York. Of course, this one here, golf courses for the homeless and the planet is fine. Those were uh, pretty get a lot of play. But on to Back in Town in 1996, abortions, state prison farms, free floating hostility. And then in 1999, you had You Are All Disease. Um, Airport security, fair germs. Those got a lot of recognition and play. And this is what I was talking about: complaints and grievances. Like I said, in his later years, he had a lot of complaints and a lot of grievances, and he let you know about them. And then Life is Worth Losing in 2006. Um, the Modern Man. This one here is that's like a George Carlin rap. I mean, he's rapping that one. Um, but he does it verbally. I mean, he's not singing it, but it might as well be a rap. Dumb Americans get a lot of recognition on YouTube with that one. And then the last album that he did was in the year of his death in 2008. It's Bad for You. So those were all the albums that he had released throughout his life. And then there was actually one that was released by the family, I guess, and after his death in 2016 was this one here, George Carlin. I kind of like it when a lot of people. That one, Like I said, that one was released after he died. Very funny stuff. Again, this one here is audio only though, so I can't get anybody to react to it. Again, a lot of these reaction channels, they will not react to George Carlin audio only. I mean, it's like I mean, I understand, the video with George Carlin is obviously going to be much better because you're going to see all his um, facial expressions and body language. Uh, yeah, I mean, obviously, seeing the video is going to be more enjoyable for those reasons. But what really bugs me though about a lot of these people that do the George Carlin reactions on their videos on their YouTube channels is they all give him a lot of praise, and they want to see more, and they really like him and they want to see more and more. But but by the same token, because they refuse or won't listen if it's audio only, if there's no video, then they're not going to pay any attention to it. They're not going to react to it. They're not going to listen to it, and you know, and so you just don't know how much you're actually missing. He has so much material out there. Uh, like I said, and but there's so much that nobody's actually ever heard yet because, again, for the same reason, it's video only, and if it's audio, they just don't have time for it. And which kind of strikes me funny too, because they'll listen to music audio only. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of channels that will react to live songs, but there's an awful lot of them that are being done, and that's all they're doing. They're listening to songs, and if you really like the comedy, if you really like George Carlin, then you know you gotta check out all of it. Uh, Even if it is audio only, don't ignore it because you're missing out. At least in my opinion. Now, in addition to all those albums I just went down the list, there's a lot of them, right? Well, in addition to that, he did like I said, he did like 14 HBO specials. He was been in like 10, 12 movies appearances, his own TV show, and he also had some audio books, three of them. Uh, Brain Droppings, which was actually a hardback book. I got it right here. I've had this for, God, man, 30 years, I bet. 25, 30 years. Brain Droppings. And then he had one called Napalm and Silly Putty. And then he had another book called When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops? And all three of those are now audio books as well. But the problem is, like for Brain Droppings, for example, he has an audio book where he reads the book to you. It's about 2 hours long, but it still doesn't cover everything that's in that book. So, I mean, there's just so much. But speaking of his book and reading of his book, um, my intentions for tonight is to actually read from this book. Actually, I'm not gonna pick up the book and read it. I already got it typed out on another screen. But I'm gonna read this George Carlin bit. It's called "Sleep," and let's get into that. Okay. And this, once again, I'm reading from George Carlin's book, Brain Droppings. And um, what I am reading is titled Sleep. And here we go. People say, I'm going to sleep now, as if it were nothing. But it's really a bizarre activity. For the next several hours, while the sun is gone, I'm going to become unconscious, temporarily losing command over everything I know and understand. And then when the sun returns, I will resume my life. Okay? So if you didn't know what sleep was and you had only seen it in a science fiction movie, you would think it was weird and tell your friends all about the movie you've seen. And this is how it would go. They had these people, and they would walk around all day and be okay. And then once a day, usually after dark, they would lie down on these special platforms and become unconscious. They would stop functioning almost completely, except deep in their minds, they would have adventures and experiences that were completely impossible in real life. As they lay there completely vulnerable to their enemies, their only movements were to occasionally shift from one position to another, or if one of the mind adventures got too real, they would sit up and scream and be glad they were unconscious anymore. Then they would drink a lot of coffee. So the next time you see someone sleeping, make believe you're in a science fiction movie and whisper to your friends, the creature is regenerating itself. Quote Marx George Carlin. Guy was a genius. I mean, as simple as that was. I mean, he really, broke down sleep. You never really think about that. Like it says, he makes it sound, no big deal because we all know about it. We all do it. Uh, so it's something that we're all familiar with. Uh, but like I says, if you really never knew what sleep was and only saw it in a movie, that would be the impression that you might get. At any rate, I know that's a little silly, and I know um, uh, it's not George Carlin, obviously, and yeah, I probably wouldn't give it much justice as George Carlin might, but yeah, by the same token, I just found it to be pretty fascinating for someone to break sleep down in such a manner as that. Uh, but so tell me what you think. Um, I appreciate. I should have did a better review of the George Carlin albums. I guess my main purpose was to just show the volume of the material that he has done over the years. Anyways, thanks again for stopping by, checking me out, and look for my next video. Y'all have a good night.